My name is Hannah Hull, and I am a mad person. I've lived with a mental health disability for most of my life. What's wrong with me? Well, my symptoms include OCD, anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. But the real question, the question that's not asked often enough of people with mental health problems, is what happened to me? When I was a child, I suffered a series of traumatic events that my brain is trying to stop me from experiencing again. So any time that I'm reminded of those events, and that can be in quite a deep subconscious way, a smell or the change of light and things that I can't quite put my finger on when they're actually happening, my brain tells me I'm in danger. And this misplaced self-preservation is what makes me crazy. And I'm not alone. Mad people are taking over the world, more now than ever. 1 in 4 of you will experience a mental health problem within the next year. In the UK, somebody takes their own life every 2 hours. 1 in 15 people attempt suicide, which means about 40 people in this room either has or will try to kill themselves. In England and Wales, suicide is the most common cause of death for men under the age of 50. And globally, by 2030, depression will be the largest health problem that we have. Despite these pretty depressing statistics, most of the time I don't mind being mad. Like many people who have suffered traumatic life experiences, those experiences change you and you don't know how you would be without them. I'm not proud of my disability, but I have come to accept my madness as simply a part of me. I have a beautiful and fulfilling personal and professional life, and at best, my mental health is a small, if constant, consideration. And most of the time, I can handle it, mostly. But when I can't, when my past experiences overwhelm my brain and completely control me, the world can be a difficult place to experience my madness in a safe way. Half of mad people say that the isolation and shame that come with a mental health disability is worse than the condition itself. I'm afraid to tell people when I'm thinking about hurting myself because I don't want to scare people away from me. 1/3 of the public think people like me are likely to be outwardly violent. I fear going to the doctor because I don't want to be pressured again into taking medication that makes me feel worse in many ways, or told that I have a chemical imbalance in my brain, just a myth that has been created by pharmaceutical companies. I know from extensive psychotherapy that my brain is just trying to protect me. I'm afraid at times to even be honest with my therapist, who I pay to help me. Every mad person knows if a therapist asks you if you're feeling suicidal, you say no, you lie, because the true answer to that question is where patient confidentiality legally ends. And when I'm at my very worst, when I'm afraid that I might kill myself, I fear calling an ambulance, because I know that depending on the training and the personal outlook of the paramedic, and depending on whether they see fit to bring a policeman with them for their own protection from me, and depending on how I respond to having strangers in my home, I could end up in a psychiatric hospital against my will and have my rights taken away from me. And that really is the deepest fear, a prison for people that have done nothing wrong, where other people decide what's best for you. The current system and social perception of mental health is stopping people like me from getting help when they need it most. What if madness was accepted as a normal experience? What if instead of trying to fix madness, we gave people a safe space to go mad, and then asked them how they want to be treated? Madlove, a designer asylum. The lunatics are taking over the asylum. For the past 5 years, myself and my collaborator, James Leadbitter, have been trying to design the most crazy, bonkers asylum we dare dream of. This is a radical reimagining of psychiatric care. We're reclaiming the word asylum and taking it back to its true meaning, a safe space. We've been working with hundreds of other mad people. The idea is not necessarily that this designer asylum would be built, although it is a possibility. The main purpose is to create a new vision that will inspire change within the current system, and to raise awareness and understanding of people with mental health disabilities, and to help them and ourselves to understand more about self and mutual care. Most of our design process happened on psychiatric wards. Some of them secure psychiatric wards, and some of them very, very secure psychiatric wards. James and I went into places that most people would never want to go, and spoke to people who don't have a voice. We're trying to put the power back in the hands of people with personal experience of mental health. This was not an easy task. We're asking disempowered people who often don't have control of their own minds. Some of them will spend the rest of their life behind shut doors. People who have got very little hope left to imagine the seemingly impossible. We call these people experts by experience, people that have got lived experience of mental health and the systems in place to support it. We ask them to forget about the laws of physics and money, and to be creative and imagine the most positive and playful space to support mental health. This took a lot of bravery from all of us and a rigorous creative process. Redesigning mental health care isn't just about changing what a space looks like or the list of services that are available. When you're inviting patients to help redesign a space, it's not about sitting them in a room with a cup of tea and asking them what's wrong with the current ward, or inviting incremental change. It's not about adding a TV room or having a couple more cigarette breaks in a day, or having some extra options on the menu, or a change in uniform colour, or just putting some art on the wall. To truly redesign mental health care based on the expertise of those who have lived through it, you need to support their creativity. You need to liberate them from their past experiences, and you need to ask the right questions. In our workshops, after doing creative warm-up activities to get people thinking laterally, we started by asking, what should good mental health care feel like? This was the starting point of our design process. What emotions do we want this space to evoke? One patient in Bethlehem Royal Hospital said to me, if they don't want us to escape, why don't they build somewhere we don't want to escape from? How do you need to feel emotionally to not want to escape from somewhere? Among many other things, our participants said they wanted to feel human, hopeful, free, and validated. They want to feel safe to be experimental, to try new ways of thinking and being. They want to feel that it's okay to not be okay. The next question we asked was not just what should this space look like, but what should it smell like and sound like and taste like and feel like to touch. These questions allowed us to create a full sensory palette to design from. The sensory experiences that support mad people are the same as the sensory experiences that support those unfortunate enough not to be mad. People said the taste of familiar recipes, fresh food. Nobody said hospital food. And being able to cook for yourself. Imagine not even being able to make yourself a cup of tea in your favourite mug. The sight of nature, the sight of your family, the feel of your pet, of rainfall, or of getting into a freshly made bed with good quality bed linen. The sound of birdsong, music, the sound of the weather, or of silence, or being able to control the volume of your environment. In many psychiatric wards on the upper floor, you can't open the windows, or barely at all, to prevent people from jumping out of the windows, but also preventing fresh air. One person said to me, instead of locking all the windows, why don't they just put bouncy castles underneath them? We collected hundreds of sensory suggestions and integrated the most popular and also the most imaginative into our designs. The next question we asked was about people. It matters who is giving the care. People make up the fabric of an environment as much as anything else. Our participants mentioned personal qualities like being practical, honest, respectful, and funny. Particularly someone with a dark sense of humour is useful when dealing with crazy people. Many people wanted to be supported by staff that had personal experience of mental health. You're more likely to trust somebody who shares the same experience of the world as you. One person suggested professional huggers. And my favourite suggestion was somebody with kind eyes. I love the idea that doctors and nurses and psychiatrists could be rejected or accepted into a position based on the kindness within their eyes. And finally, we asked people what activities and facilities support them. People wanted a gym and a pool, outdoor space for gardening, a farm, art workshops, a library full of books and music and film that have helped other people in their recovery, and a librarian who could help you to get a book or a film that had a sad ending if you needed to have a good cry, or a happy one if you didn't. One suggestion that I love was that we keep the padded cell as a place to scream and shout and punch the walls, but that we were giving the key to let ourselves in and out when we wanted. And my favourite answer was a young man in Birmingham. He said he wanted to have a room full of Fabergé eggs and a hammer to smash them with. So here are the designs. With Rosemary Cunningham, an illustrator, Ben Kozlowski, a designer, and James Christian, an architect, we came up with this installation at the Wellcome Collection, which is a major museum in London. And our exhibit was visited by 150,000 people. The model features many of the ideas generated from our research process and allows for diverse needs to be met in a single space. It's definitely not one size fits all. Here you can see the bakery, which is the food hub, where you can smell home-cooked food, cook for other people or be cooked for, eat in a quiet nook on your own or communally. Here is what we're calling tree houses, which are private pods with no disruption if your neighbour is having a bad night, no jangling of keys along a corridor at night. And you can arrange these spaces however you want with your personal possessions around you. And nearby there's pods for friends and family to stay and be close by you if you need them. And just outside your door is a running track around the hills. This is the town square where there's always something happening. There's always somebody around if you need help or you just want some company. And of course, little dogs to pet. And here is a lake with a birdhouse to attract birds and birdsong, tennis courts overlooking the water, little spots for making art, a boat for you to take a trip out onto the water. We've tried out some of these ideas in real life, so here's part of an installation at FACT in Liverpool. This was open for 3 months as an experiment in mutual care. This space had over 3,000 visitors and over 350 mad people participated in workshops that were designed by and for people with mental health disabilities. At the back, you can see an attempt at what we call the cooling tower, the padded cell for people to shout and scream in. You can control the weather by the projections. There's projections on the umbrella canopy, and as you come into the space, you can pick what weather you want to have that day. In the central area is a workshop space for lots of patient-led activities such as aromatherapy, chocolate making, critical reading groups, making a postcard to send a friend, all ideas that mad people have come up with themselves. And then there's a quiet, comfy pod shaped a bit like a piece of Turkish delight at the back. And here you can have private chats. You can draw a curtain across while you're in there, and people can tell that the room is occupied by the feet underneath rather than occupied signs and locked doors. The space featured a simple indoor garden with growing workshops, again run by mad people, with a focus on fragrant and edible plants. And these bookcase stairs house the Library of Good Mental Health, which all of the books have been recommended by people, and there's a note in the front about when it helped them in their journey. And it's not limited to self-help or medical books or psychology books. It's any work of literature that's helped somebody in some way. And then at the front of the space is a scent station where, as you come in, you could pick a room scent that you found comforting. And we found this amazing place that could sell us a room scent of a thunderstorm. The Madlove concept is not a space to cure or stop madness. It's a space where good mental health can flourish and bad mental health can be experienced safely. And it's not just an unrealizable utopia. We've found that if you're willing to imagine utopia, people will come and help you build it. We've already had 3 major health partnerships in the UK, including redesigning a children's mental health unit in Edinburgh, designing a recreation area for a high-security psychiatric hospital, and developing new training for mental health nurses to help them be more creative and empathetic, but also to understand their own mental health better. We've also received lots of really great press coverage on BBC Worldwide and the national UK papers, and even a pilot for a television show. This willfully optimistic vision gives people hope and agency for those working in the mental health services and those who need them. And this just isn't just about the big picture. People come away from the workshops with ideas on how to improve their immediate environment, planting a lavender bush or baking a cake with their grandma's recipe, or just opening a window next time it's raining and listening. What would it take to improve your mental health? The answers might be simpler than you think, and they might not be that dissimilar to mine. We need to create a more flexible and empathic world for everybody, because at least a quarter of you will go mad within the next year. And when you do, you'll need some mad love.